Look at this beautiful before and after. Where the after looks still very natural, I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that you might have not thought about if you have this before eyebrow. It can get a little intimidating when you want your brows to look a little fuller. Also, it's a little uneven, as you can see right here. So I'm going to show you a couple of tricks, but most importantly, just to get them a little fuller without looking overly done. So if that's you, please stick around and I'll show you how to do that. So we talked about the eyebrows being thin, but it's also a little uneven, right? This side of the eyebrow, you can also see that the eyes go a little bit further down. She's about as even as she can be when I was filming her, but up here as well, it obviously goes further down because that eye, the whole structure of that side of the face goes a little down. And actually it's like that for me as well on this side. Most of us have that. Some are just a little bit more apparent than others. I'm actually gonna just, before I shape her eyebrows, just show you what we're going to do. We're going to focus mainly above the brow line. This is why I think any of us can do this. So what you want to do is follow your natural brow line, right? And I didn't show you on the model, but when you go above the brow line, you want to know where your arch is, right? So right over here, middle of the nostril. It's always the middle of the nostril over the iris or the pupil, that is. And you know what? You can make that little mark right here. I didn't make it on the model, but if you make these little marks, it's easier to follow. So again, it's just following your natural shape, keeping in mind that the side that's a little lower, you want to draw it up a little higher, but not by much. You just want to be aware, right? When you're drawing. Now I'm using a brush. You can use a pencil as well. It doesn't matter. It's always what you find to be easier. In this video, it's going to be a powder and brush, but like I said, pencil's fine. So down below here that I'm pointing out, again, the side's the lower side, right? And you're going to just notice that once it's shaped, it's going to be lifted a tiny bit. Also the other side, but it's wide or thick up in the front, right? So look at this. It's lifted, as you can see. You can see that little pink mark right there. It's lifted, but not too much. It's still thick, meaning it's thicker than the rest of the eyebrows as it was before. This is the trick. And you might have seen me do this before, but it's one of the easiest tricks to do, right? When you apply a concealer stick, or in this case is a Pro Pencil eyeshadow base, right above the brows. Now you notice that it's from behind her. So when you're doing the top, I'm holding up the stick this way. So you hold it above here. And you know what? If you just go right over your eyebrows, it just glides and follows your natural shape. Keeping in mind, this side's a little lower naturally, so I'm just making sure that I go a tiny bit higher. And I'm not going to blend it in too much, so that way you can see that highlight, right? And it makes your brows look a little thicker, or darker, that is. So with the brush 18, the brush is optional. I always say, you know, it's good to have that brush to just kind of blend it out, but you don't have to do that. You could also use your finger. I often do that as well. But again, you notice that when I put the highlighter underneath, I'm laying the pencil down, laying the pencil down, laying it down. So that way you don't flatten the highlighter stick. You keep it round. It's easier to apply as well, as opposed to it flat, right? Like a lipstick. You don't want it flat this way. You want to keep it curved, so the application is that much easier. So again, go above the brows when you go at the top, and then go down here and keep it laying down. So on this model, it's the taupe dual eyeshadow. If you're my hair color, ash brown is the perfect color. So you notice that it's right. I start at the middle. I always start at the middle because the first time you touch your eyebrows, that's what gets darker. Now I froze this area so that you can see the difference, right? I just did that side right here. Look at the difference from one side to the other. Not that much different, right? Just a little darker. And that's what I want you to see. Because of the combination of the highlighter and the dual powder, make sure you pick up the powder side by side if you're using a brush. That way the brush stays sharp. I'm just applying inside that brow area, meaning where the highlighter is and inside. You're not creating a new shape. You created kind of a shape with the highlighter stick, okay? So that's why with the powder, you're just keeping it inside. So you're gonna notice that the other side of the eyebrow, you're gonna notice again the direction. Like when I'm doing the eyebrows with the powder brush, I'm dragging it down. I'm dragging it up, but I'm never going head on with the brush. So here, take a look at this. Again, this side's the lower side, right? So I'm paying a little bit more attention and going a tiny bit higher. I just want you to see that the brush is laying. It's not dragging back and forth like a pencil. Even with the pencil, you don't want to do that. So it's okay. So if you're right-handed, you're doing your left eyebrow, you're holding it, and then I'm just doing this, and then I'm dragging it down, dragging it up. I'm not doing this. I'm just sideways is this way, and the brush is laying flat. Same for this side. If you're right-handed, obviously it's a little easier, but it's really about just getting inside that highlighter and mainly focusing the middle to the end. Remember, this is assuming you have some hair up in the front. You don't need to go right up in the front first. You don't need the front to be too dark. If you get the middle to the end darker, it looks more natural, I think. So at this point, that's when you can go back to the highlighter and just kind of, fix anything you feel like you need to fix. Look at this as an eraser. So you can even lift it up a little higher. Like this side is naturally lower, right? You can put the highlighter stick a tiny bit higher or go higher in underneath, just to kind of like raise it up a little bit. Because this side's naturally raised up. I'm not going to do mine because I'm going to look like really crazy. Partly because I favor this eyebrow. So when I make expressions, I talk, this brow just goes up. Therefore, it adds to that unevenness. I always say that to everyone because, especially to my clients, because I think we just forget sometimes, right? So beautiful finish with the brow gel. The gel's important because it keeps the powder on longer. And the most important thing is hone on in this. The hair, you could see the hair. You can see the strand of the hair. That's very important. And you could also use a brow freeze as well. The freeze will freeze your hair a bit more. It will make the hair look even thicker because it's putting so much more product. But the most important thing is that keeps the hair standing up in an angle. And so I always love it when you see the hair strand. I don't like it when you see mostly pencil and barely any stress. Now that's assuming we have hair up in the front, right? Or just anywhere else. But just a little goes a long way. If you have a good amount of hair and you don't need a ton of gel, use the clear brow gel. But if you have a very fine, very little, and the hair keeps falling down a lot, use a brow freeze. And at this point, this is also a good time to also trim your hairs when it's sticking up. That's a good tip. Again, not only is this an eraser, look at this as it creating a outline, right? So that's the most important thing. Whether you have thick brows or thin brows, this will go with just about anything, okay? Anything you got going on with your eyebrow hair, especially if you have sparse eyebrows, especially if you have gaps in and around, you're not sure what to do, or you have some growing out hair, you haven't quite gotten to see me yet, or anyone else for that matter. This can also hide, any kind of grown out hair. So for those special evenings. Anyway, so I hope that helped. Please let me know if it did. Subscribe because that helps me. Thank you for the comments. Keep that coming. I will try to get to them as much as I can. I will, of course, list everything that's on my face as well because so many of you guys ask me, what are you wearing here? And like your lipstick, your foundation. And I do tag them because it helps me if you purchase it that way. But with YouTube, all the exact colors doesn't quite pop up on the tag. So everything will be in the description. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time here. And I'll see you guys next week.